Hey everyone, welcome back to Comic Book Corner, and this is your host, Mike Spider Slayer. What's up, guys? Welcome back to episode 3 of celebrating 50 years of old Spider Man. That's right, guys. This one's a quick follow up to episode 2. Reason being, I have some extra time today to do one of these and to answer a couple questions. One of the questions was for the Hulk's big toe. One of my fellow followers, since the beginning here, he's watched me long time, and wanted to know what this book exactly was and what it was actually called and what it looked like. And well, here it is. This is the book. It's called It's Spider-Man Chronicle, and on the bottom is 50 years, or it says celebrating 50 years of web slinging. So if you're looking to purchase this book and want to know everything about Spider-Man and just Spider-Man, this is the book to get. Okay? And the next one will be addressed to Mr. I Talk Apple. Likes this series, so his question wanted to know who was the woman in Peter Parker's life before Mary Jane, or was it Gwen Stacy? And the answer to that question was neither. The first girl that Peter Parker was interested in was actually Liz Allen, and she looks like this. Okay? Pretty hot, huh? She blows Mary Jane away. So, actually, Liz Allen was kind of like, I guess, an item with Flash. And what happened was Spider-Man actually rescued Liz Allen, and he called her Blue Eyes. And ever since then, she had a thing for Spider-Man. So when Peter actually asked her out on a date, she was like, hell no, I'm going to tell you what I said to Flash Thompson. I'm holding myself for Spider-Man. And she kind of just rejected him right there and then. But that was really the first love interest that Peter Parker had. And that took place in issue number 6 in the November of 1963. So yes, Liz Allen was the first love interest of Peter Parker. So, with that being said, there's a couple of the questions that were answered. And now going back into a little bit of Spider-Man's history, we're going to talk about issues number 4 and 5 and 6. And then I'll show you something else real quick. In September of 1963, we were introduced to another one of Spider-Man's main villains, and this had to do with the Sandman. You can kind of see a trend of these characters coming on. You see these first major villains, like you got Dr. Octopus, and you got Sandman coming, and you start seeing like the few pieces of the Sinister Six coming in. But here's the first issue right there, issue 4 with the Sandman. It's one of those classic covers, and it was described as the supervillain Sandman who could change his way in any way he wants to with his sand granules. And just like every other supervillain there was out there in the time, he got his powers by some kind of nuclear explosion. And obviously the Sandman's name was Flint Marko. And he was trapped in a nuclear explosion that gave him abilities, and it was Stan Lee's trend of using real-world fear of nuclear bombs to create these supervillains. So that's why you hear all these crazy experiments that gone wrong in the 60s. That's why it happened to these particular characters. So pretty badass right there. Next, in The Amazing Spider-Man issue 5, which was released in 1963 in October, we have the first fight with Doctor Doom. And I think in this one we also had the Fantastic Four on here. Let's see. It says Doctor Doom's Fantastic Four arch foe pitted against his genius against Spider-Man. And he tried to make the Wallcrawler his partner, so he tried to recruit him. So, yeah, he teamed up against Doctor Doom. Nothing really huge. But this was one of the first times that Flash Thompson actually impersonated Spider-Man. And we all know how big Flash Thompson was in impersonating Spider-Man and wanting to be Spider-Man. So that's what you have in issue number 5. And in issue number 6 of The Amazing Spider-Man, we were introduced to the Lizard and Dr. Curt Connors for our first time here. And we can see that here. And again, it had to do with the love interest of Liz Allen, and it was pretty cool. It says The Amazing Spider-Man 6th issue introduced the Lizard, a tragic character and the latter apparent influence of DC's Batman villain, the Man-Bat. And so it was kind of something like that. And yeah, so it talked about Connors, how he used his serum to grow his arm, and how he became, the Lizard, and how he had control over all these amphibians and alligators and things like that. So that's what we have there. And here's a nice little page right here of the original Dr. Curt Connors as the Lizard. So that's what we have. We have issues 4, 5, and 6. That's the issues that I want to share with you. And then now, going back into my history of Spider-Man and dealing with the character, some iconic issues for me, I wanted to show you, and that's these right here. A lot of you guys know what my first issue was that I collected of Amazing Spider-Man, what got me into my first real series. And that was Amazing Spider-Man 313, and I always described it as the Lizard was on it, and Todd McFarlane drew it, and this is the issue right here. So we can see it's got this crazy cover on it, but this was the first issue that I bought in the comic book store, and at one time I think this book was worth like $20. I don't even know what it's worth now. It might be worth something just because Todd McFarlane drew it. And I think it's time to open it up and get it out of this cover because the backing is old on it and everything else. But we're kind of doing like an unboxing here for the first time. I haven't looked at this comic and I couldn't tell you how long. But you have this right here. This book is in mint condition. I've read it and put it away. But yep, 313, and it had to do with the Lizard, Todd McFarlane's drawings. Here, if you guys are familiar, this is what the Lizard looked like for Todd McFarlane. So very, very cool issue. I don't exactly remember what it's about, but McFarlane just came on the scene at this time, and the way he drew Spider-Man and the way he drew his characters were groundbreaking. Like, this was awesome right here. And just different panels and everything else, and just really, really cool stuff. So this was the first book that I ever bought for Amazing Spider-Man at the comic book store. And after seeing this art and what it looked like, I was like, hell yeah, I'm on board with this stuff. And very cool stuff. And here's a picture of Mary Jane right there. So this is what started it off for me for Amazing Spider-Man, and collected pretty much every issue since then. Maybe not in order, but I have them. And this issue I wanted to show out for you. This was issue number 350 of The Amazing Spider-Man. As we know today, Amazing Spider-Man ended at issue 700. This is the halfway point for Amazing Spider-Man. At that time, this was a huge issue. Eric Larson was on the book at this time. He followed Todd McFarlane, and every time he did one of these books, he drew he drew Mary Jane or Electro or some of these characters on there that was really cool. And this book had to do with all of Doctor Doom, and here's what Doctor Doom looks like. And if you guys read Savage Dragon, you can see the comparisons in the artwork. But it's got the fox. There's another picture of Doom. And then I'll give you a page of what Spider-Man always went through with Eric Larson back in the day. When Eric Larson drew Spider-Man, it was Spider-Man always got destroyed. His costume always got torn up, and it was just like in shreds all the time. He must have went through more costumes in this time frame than anything. But this is why I love Spider-Man so much in these days. Just the over-exaggerations and the poses. And he was the first one that made the eyes move up and down on his costume and had all these expressions and all these faces. There's Mary Jane and Peter. So that was the cool stuff. Here's another picture of Mary Jane. And that's what made Spider-Man different when Larson drew it. Just had expressions on Spider-Man's face mask. And some people didn't go for that because they're like, how can a mask have expressions? But it's more like just seeing what Peter's thinking and going through on the inside. So, and then here's one more page here. So I love this time frame for Amazing Spider-Man. It was a great time. This was back in 1991. Yes, it was the 90s, but this is what drew me to Spider-Man. It was this cool artwork and these cool stories back in the day. So that's it, guys. That's all I have for you for this episode of celebrating 50 years of Spider-Man. I hope you guys are enjoying this series. I love doing this series because it gets me a chance to share history and my old Amazing Spider-Man books and keep Peter Parker's legacy alive, and so that he is not forgotten. So guys, until the next episode of celebrating 50 years of Old Webhead, this is Mike Spider Slayer signing off. Take care, everyone. See you real soon. Bye.